Hello, this is Missy's View. Look at these beautiful roses. Everything outside is just so amazing, and I love to sit and just look at the beauty. So many beautiful things to see. Now there's a quote that I'd like to talk about. It was written by Helen Keller. She's a very famous deafblind woman. She's very, very famous. This is her here, Helen Keller. Now she was extremely famous, and she did things related to many things. And she identified mostly with blind. Yes, she was deaf, but she first identified as blind. And people often think, oh, poor Helen Keller, she's deaf and she's blind, but, to her, this was just her life, and it was all right with her. So there's this really amazing quote, and it says that that Helen Keller wrote, that says that blindness separates us from things, but that deafness separates us from people. Yeah, I can see how if you were blind, you would be separated from lots of things, and you couldn't see, colors, and you wouldn't be able to describe a person, and that could be extremely hard. It could be almost impossible, I would think. But the part about deafness, and that deafness separates us from people, I was really taken aback by that. I'm not sure that I agree. I mean, deaf people have the deaf community. They have deaf residential schools. There's deaf communities all over. There's deaf teachers. All kinds of different people are deaf. There's universities, and maybe at the time Helen Keller didn't have the deaf communities that were set up. I really wonder about that. And if you were blind and to not be able to see all these things, I just think that would be terrible. Many hearing people haven't met a deaf person, and they said that they would prefer to be blind. And many interpreters, if you ask them about deaf and blind, it's interesting. Sometimes their answers are different. And Helen Keller really seems to think that between being deaf and blind, being deaf is worse. But I myself, I don't feel necessarily separated from people because I have my language of ASL. I can read English and write English, and it's just pretty interesting. What do you guys think about this quote? Blindness separates us from things, but deafness separates us from people, written by Helen Keller. This has been Missy's View.